In honor of Richard Lewis, I'll say I was lowered in New Jersey. It was funny because out of the 6 kids, I'm the only one whose name she couldn't remember. And I'm the one. Exactly. I have a chapter in a book titled, Does Wiping a Loved One's Butt Cause Amnesia? And I parked her in front of that mirror and I leaned in cheek to cheek and said, who is that pretty girl? And she beamed. And I said, oh my God.
I mean, I'm beaming. I'm beaming.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. This is Dan Dante. Welcome to another episode of Middle-Aged Mess, the show for people who didn't speak to their fathers until they were about 3.5 years old. Today we're going to have some fun. I'm excited about today's show because we've got Steven Porro. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Great.
Good to be back in L.A.
There you go. So Mark is a native New Jerseyite. I think that's how you say it. He lived in California for a long time as the entertainment industry. And then he wrote a book called A Cup of Tea on the Commode. And we're going to get deep into the cup and the commode today. So I'm excited. Mark, I usually like to talk about where people were raised, like how they got to this middle-aged mess in their life. So why don't you give me a little background on where you grew up and how you ended up here?
In honor of Richard Lewis, I'll say I was lowered in New Jersey. That was one of his jokes.
That's awesome.
I'm one of 6 children, and we grew up in a little village called the Village of Ridgewood. It's 25,000 people. It's kind of a suburb of New York City. It's up in Bergen County, about 20 minutes outside the city. Unless there's traffic, then it's 3 or 4 days. And
so LA, you were used to LA before you even got here.
Yeah, well, pretty much, except for all the, for the traffic and stuff, but not for all the driving. We do have some mass transit that works on the East Coast. My dad was a chemist. My mom was a proofreader for the largest newspaper at the time in New Jersey, the Bergen Record. So she worked the night shift, he worked the day shift. And I wouldn't say we're latchkey kids, but my older sister actually filled in quite a bit. For mom, because mom had to sleep during the day and then she went to work at night and came home early in the morning. But she was also a shopaholic. So she had incredible stamina. She'd work all night and then grab 1 or 2 of us in the morning and go out for these shopping marathons.
That's amazing.
Which kept the economy in New Jersey just boom on a really good momentum.
That's awesome.
So,
which number were you? Which number kid were you?
Number 5, 3 boys, 3 girls. I'm the youngest son. I'm the tallest kid. We all got progressively taller as we arrived.
So did you grow up in New York? Were you like a New York kid or you were outside of New York?
Outside of New York, in New Jersey, it was a nice suburb. Went to the city a lot. My mom was really into the arts, so we went into the city to see the theater and go to Radio City Music Hall and to watch, the latest Disney movie. Went to the World's Fair.
So my mom grew up in Forest Hills, and she always tells me stories about how the city was basically her playground. They jump on the subway and they'd go wherever they wanted to go. And like for a person from California who literally grew up in the backseat of a station wagon for the first 18 years, it's amazing to think about kids growing up and just being able to do whatever they want to do and jump on a subway and go here and end up in different parts of the city. It must have been, for you, I get that you're outside, but when you spend time in the city and just that whole East Coast lifestyle is very different.
Yeah, you jumped on a bus. It was the short line. You got it. It was about maybe a mile at the most from where I grew up. And you walk to the short line, you get picked up. It was like, the $1.50 or so to get to the city.
So did you stay in the East Coast for college or did you come out here?
California? No, I went to Ohio State. I originally went there to go to med school.
Now we got issues. Mark.
My best friend that I grew up with, he went off to private school in 8th grade, and I never saw him again. He ended up going to medical school at the University of Michigan, and I ended up going to Ohio State for med school. I switched it over to industrial design shortly after.
How'd you end up in Ohio State coming from East Coast? Midwest is, it's a very different world.
Well, I visited, I mentioned this in the book, I visited 2 colleges. One was Harvard, where my sister lived near there. And then the same sister moved and she was a dance education major at Ohio State. So that was the second school I visited. And I was accepted into Ohio State.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. I actually sent an application out to Harvard when I was in high school, and they sent it back wrapped in a fish, which I thought was a little bit excessive, but it happens.
That's a hint.
Yeah. But you ended up in California in the entertainment industry for a long time.
I studied industrial design, and by luck, Ohio State had one of the best programs in the country. So that was a little serendipity, which seems to appear quite a bit in my life. But I had the acting bug because of all this exposure to the arts when we were younger. I guess I kind of got it. We were all in the dance and ballet, all studied ballet when we were young. And I retired at 11 from that. And then...
Didn't like wearing the tutu? Too much for you?
No tutu. But let me tell you something, the benefit of this. My brother and I were the only guys in the entire dance school.
My son also did dance, not ballet. He did hip-hop dance, and it was the same thing. It was all women. And when he quit, also by the time around he was 11, I said, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you kidding? This is like heaven on earth. Stay here forever.
It was nice. It was my first exposure of a woman's breast was in the ballet.
All right. No, it's a good memory. Got it.
Fond memories.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I had a good design career going in Ohio, I got a job. I got actually recruited by one of the best design firms in the country at the time, which was just north of Columbus. I went out to visit LA, and I had a meeting with an agent and a meeting with a number of design firms. So I had a design job waiting for me, and I decided to go out there and give it a shot. So I started studying right away, and my goal was to get on Hill Street Blues. And 2 years later, I got on Hill Street Blues.
Yes, sir. That's awesome.
So that was my first gig. You know what was cool about that? Since we're
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
All right. So I'm playing an attorney, the assistant DA on Hill Street Blues, one of the top shows at the time.
I remember.
In the courtroom, there was, you have these people sitting in the courtroom for hours. And this was my first gig. And when you're a union actor, after you go 8 hours, then you go into special time or double time.
Right.
And you go into golden time. So my first gig, I got paid really well because it went 11, 12 hours that night. And in the gallery, in the courtroom, there was this one gentleman, probably in his 80s.
Yeah.
And he was having the best time. And he's there the whole time. So I sat with him during one of the breaks.
Yeah.
And I was kind of asking him, don't you have something better to be doing? And he says, no, I just love being around you young people and you creative people. And I feed off it. It's just great. And as we're talking, he tells me, my daughter owns this studio.
Oh, my God.
I said, really? Who's your daughter? He says, Mary Tyler Moore. And this guy, her dad, just loved hanging out with them because at that time, St. Elsewhere was being filmed there.
Yeah.
Seinfeld eventually was filmed there. And Hill Street Blues, some really good shows.
But you were in Burbank, right? The Burbank lot? Is that where you were?
Well, that was in, they call it Radford. It was in Studio City.
Okay, got it.
Right off of Ventura Boulevard.
Could you wrangle an invite to hang out with Mary Tyler Moore at the time? I mean, that would have been the big score.
Yeah, you got to be careful, especially on your first gig.
Yeah, I guess so.
I ended up sitting in the director's chair during that shoot, and he was very nice, but not very happy about it.
Yeah,
so,
I gotcha.
Yeah, there's certain things you can kind of screw up and maybe even hurt your career by just silly being inexperienced and doing silly things.
So did you enjoy being a working actor? I got to tell you, so I wrote some books that did okay a long time ago, and I had an agent. I spent around 6 months in the entertainment industry and wanted to kill myself. Like, I just couldn't deal with just the environment, the viciousness. It wasn't something that was very enjoyable for me. How did you like your time as an actor?
Well, I went in there, like I'm a pretty adventurous guy. So I went in with kind of eyes open and just embracing all of it. If you're a working actor, it's great. In between, it absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, I hate this. And then you get a call saying you have an audition and you go, I love this business. So it's
Exactly.
Up and down. And you do have to get a pretty thick skin because even if you're not getting rejected, let's say, on the phone or not getting a part, you're still getting rejected because you're not even getting an opportunity to go up for those parts. And you get used to that. As you get older, the business has really changed. I keep in touch with a lot of my friends on social media and stuff, and it's changed a lot since I was there. But as you get older, you've got younger and younger people who are controlling your career. And that's what gets really frustrating.
Yeah.
I didn't do great. I had a good run in the in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s. And I have a nice pension coming
Nice.
when it's due. So I never even thought about that. You just work and you do your best and you study. I mean, I studied pretty much the whole time I was out there. But Hollywood also got me into writing, which certainly has evolved into this book, which was lovely. So
let's jump into the Commode. I want to get into the Commode. Give us a little background on kind of how it came to be, because it was an experience in your life that became what's a really, really interesting and funny book.
Yeah. Well, not totally funny, but yes, there's a lot of humor in it. So I was a carefree bachelor living in L.A. I had a snack food business. My brother and I, to honor my dad, he had a snack food invention, this half-pop popcorn we called it Grandpa Poe's Originals. That was actually a nationwide brand for a while. But it was on the wane. When you're a small, and we were organic, so we caught that wave early on. When you're a small company that's starting to do well, the big boys can come in and do some things. So we had a little trouble with the competition. Sometimes I couldn't even get popcorn because that was the base of our product, because the big companies were going in and buying all the organic corn around the country and stuff. So it's tough to compete with the big guys. So that started petering out. My acting career, I was getting older, so that was slowing down. And in 2012, my brother called me from New Jersey. My mom was living in her home at the time, the house we all grew up in. He said she just shut down and she's kind of in a semi-comatose state. And he says, I put her to bed and called the doctor. The doctor said, cut off all meds, all food. She's going, let her go. And hospice was called. So I kind of freaked out because 14 years earlier, my father was, we were taking care of him at home. It was a similar situation, but he was home, and then we got the call saying he's got 30 days. And so we all came in and took care of him. So we didn't have hospice come in until like the last minute. But once they were called, he died 2 days later. So when you hear hospice, you know the end's not going to be good.
Yeah, exactly.
So we all came in. I think I came in the next morning, and after a few weeks, she snapped out of it. And I have a chapter in the book called A Silent Scream. And I think it was a silent scream for help. She was not happy. We had people in the house that were managing household duties. And we had another person helping her with her personal hygiene at the time. She could still walk, but after this incident, she no longer walked again. And so she's bedridden. Again,
how old were you, Mark? How old were you at the time?
I was 55. So once I got back there, I kind of assessed the situation, and I didn't move back right away. But by the end of the year, I moved back and decided to become a first-time parent to an 89-year-old lady who could barely remember my name. And there we go. So the decision to do it, because I grew up in a pretty nurturing family, and the parents taught us well, and it was a great way to honor your father and your mother. And so the decision to go back and improve her life, or at least try to make her last years as happy as they could be, was easy. Working out the logistics wasn't so easy. But
I'll tell you why I'm particularly interested in your story, Mark, is because when I'm not a world famous podcaster, I actually run senior housing communities. And
gosh.
So I deal with situations like your mom's every single day at work. And I can tell everybody, and everybody kind of already knows, how unbelievably difficult it is to go, especially with a family member, to go in and take care of somebody when they're in this condition. It's really, really challenging. First of all, is just as the son, you always look at your parents as, somewhat your heroes. I mean, you remember them in a much different light. They were powerful and strong and smart and, full of life. And you have to accept who they've become now. And to just psychologically, it's difficult to do. And then, like you said, being a parent, because you really are a parent, they become babies again. I mean, they need your help completely and totally. They're completely dependent on you. And it's really a remarkable thing that what you did to go back home and take care of your mom. I mean, I really have a soft spot in my heart for people who do that. And it's a wonderful way to honor and cherish your parents.
I have to say, so I felt like when I was originally writing the book, or this whole situation, it seemed like I was going back to rescue my mother because she was not happy. We had the caregivers in the house were not great. So I had to get rid of I got to be careful. I'm an Italian from Jersey, so getting rid of them is a little different.
Yeah, I understand.
It can be interpreted. So
I
yes, we eventually got them to move out of the house healthy and not so happy about leaving. So it seemed like I was rescuing my mother. And so I wrote the book, and it was released last year on Mother's Day. And then later in the year, I did the audio book. So I'm revisiting the whole book and doing some rewrites and stuff.
Right.
And as I was, let's say, reinterpreting the book, it actually seems like my mother could have been rescuing me.
Yeah.
Because at that point, the acting career was not doing great. The snack food business was not doing great. Yeah. I had no children. I had no a special relationship at the time. And this gave me a real important thing to do and a purpose and something that it kind of changed me.
Yeah, well,
and
you definitely rediscover your humanity when you're dealing with the elderly. By the way, I'm 55 right now, so I'm exactly the age you were when you went back. And, like at this time in our lives, we are probably slowing it down a little bit. We've probably spent the last 20 or 30 years either raising a family or with, trying to get a successful career. And, things are kind of slowing down a little bit. And you forget how important like those attachments are to people. And when you enter into a relationship like this with your parents, I mean, you really have to slow it down, and you really have to kind of become one with the humanity of working with somebody who can't really do the things they used to do. But there's one thing I want to ask about. The first thing is, you're a man. Like usually men, you're welcome. Usually the men don't go back and take care of mom. Usually it is the sisters. Why did you take the role?
We're catching up, but it's still about 60% or so the daughters that fill in this role. But but the design and the acting career all helped this because you're seeing, at least with my case, I did everything. So it's 24/7 care, and you're seeing your mother naked for the first time.
Yeah.
And you have to see what the years have done to her body, and you have to get over it and get on with the work. So I had to assume the role of the caregiver. I mean, you're still the son, and she's still your mother, but to really do it, I learned a lot of what I could. I hung out with hospice quite a bit because at that point, we were still on death watch and we weren't sure how long mom was going to be with us. So my younger sister and I studied like crazy with hospice and got all the tips, and we did as much as we could while they were there and they were coaching. So we learned how to, change the diapers, how to change the bedding, with the patient laying in the bed, which is not always so easy. How to be gentle with them, getting them in and out of bed. Grab by the arms, you grab under the armpits, and all those techniques that make sure that they're safe. And
it sounds like you were the primary caregiver, but your siblings were involved as well. They were part of the program too.
Once I moved back, it was me.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
I had a brother who lived close by, and he came in on, we called it his Tuesday night. So he came in and cooked on Tuesday nights. Otherwise, I did all the cooking for all the meals during the day. And then he would get her ready for bed at night. So he wanted to stay in practice in case an emergency or something. He was still, I guess, well-tuned to fill in for me. The other siblings, my younger sister, when she came in from Michigan, I had to go out to LA every couple of months to make the snack food to serve the clients in the stores that we still had. And then my sister, who lived in California, would fly in. So we had, so she would come in and take over for 1 week. And the other two middle kids were a little bit hands-off with the physical stuff. They did other things to help out. But it was pretty much me, and they were great. I mean, they yielded. They let me kind of run the show over there. And even a couple of them at times would ask me if they could come over. And I'm like, wait, this is your house too.
Right.
I'm taking care of our mother, but it's our house. It's everybody's house. So that was quite interesting.
So before we get into the book, let's talk about the title, A Cup of Tea on the Commode. Is there a story behind that?
Mom, again, was bedridden and trying to get her through with the wheelchair and stuff through the narrow doorways of this house that was built in the 30s was impossible. So we had a commode we put bedside. Sometimes Mother Nature would take a little longer than was comfortable, let's say, for either one of us. And mom's favorite beverage was a cup of hot tea, skim milk, and no sugar. And so one morning while we were waiting for Mother Nature, I asked her if she'd like a cup of tea, and she said, yeah. And it became a hit. Right. So every morning she got a cup of tea on the commode.
That's awesome.
So it's simple, practical. And those are some of the things you have to do. It's like, this is not fancy. If we can, I also call it my multitasking adventures of caring for mom. So I did a lot of multitasking, and so did she. While she was on the commode, she got to drink a nice little beverage.
That's awesome. So look, a lot of people aren't engaged in caregiving. They don't understand how challenging it can be. Why don't we talk a little bit about the patience that you had to learn while you were caring for your mom?
Yeah. Again, I was pretty lucky with this because I went in, I didn't know everything, of course, and I hadn't been a parent, but I was like, I'm open to all of it. So the person, and it was funny because out of the 6 kids, I'm the only one whose name she couldn't remember. And I'm
Of course, that's always the way it works, right? Yeah, exactly.
So I have a chapter in a book titled, Does Wiping a Loved One's Butt Cause Amnesia? And I have facts that, yes, in fact, it does. But eventually, I put a visual aid. I put my name on big letters, and I stuck it to the ceiling. So in the morning when I would greet her, she would be laying in bed looking up. And I would say, good morning, and she'd say, good morning, and then her eyes would shoot to the ceiling for the
reminder.
And come back and go, Mark. So it worked well. And then eventually she got used to me and remembered my name.
So I'm sure you got a lot of insights into what, growing old means as a person. Let's talk about, like, how about, did she see herself as pretty? Did she see herself as still a woman as she was going through the last stages?
Okay, this, I don't know at that point, but she did under my care. So one of the first things I did or wanted to do, well, there's 2 things. One, I wanted to make sure I got her to laugh at least once a day.
Right.
I told her early on, I said, if I take this on, we're going to have fun. And she was game because both of my parents had really good senses of humor. So I wanted to return some dignity to not only her, but to her surroundings.
Yeah.
So I bought her a new wardrobe was the first thing because she has old ladies' clothes, day dresses, and they were drab and tattered and stuff. And I said, no, that's not going to work for my mom. So I went out and bought, or actually went shopping. So if you have a man in his 50s going through women's clothing looking for a senior citizen's clothing and what you have to deal with the dirty old ladies and the weird saleswomen.
Yeah, for sure.
You're trying to convince them, no, this is for my mother.
Yeah, they might call the police on me, but
Yeah, so it was a little awkward. So I ended up doing it online. But there's a fashion niche that really needs to be filled because there's not a lot of nice stuff for the elderly. It's terrible. So I bought her new things that wasn't for the elderly, but fit her well. And she loved it. And then I created a thing I called Day of Beauty. My mom worked full time, but once a week she went to the beauty parlor get her nails done and for a shampoo and a set. So I wanted to recreate that at home. I had no idea when the last time she went to a beauty parlor. While she was on the commode, I gave her normally 2 sponge baths a day anyway, in the morning and in the evening. And so while she sat on the commode, I soaked her feet in Epsom salts. I washed her hair. And then when she was finished, I put her in the bed and had to tend to any medical needs. But then she got a full body massage and a new diaper. And then she chose her wardrobe. And then I blow dried her hair and either ponytailed it or...
Mark, you're like a saint. You're like Mother Teresa of New Jersey. My God, unbelievable.
Okay. So, but... they're simple little things.
No, but you are, because look, I got to tell you again, I run senior housing communities. I have caregivers, and we have a full staff of people who tend to elders 24 hours a day. And I know how hard it is. It's so hard, to do that all day and basically subjugating yourself to the needs of a senior citizen all day, every day. I mean, a lot of things you're talking about, you're saying it so matter-of-factly and it's awesome, but it's uncomfortable. I mean, these things you're talking about are not easy to do with anybody, much less your mom. And the way you just attacked them and took it on it's pretty remarkable that you did this.
Well, I'll tell you. Okay, so again, thank you. For me, it wasn't. It seemed it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So She had beautiful nails, beautiful long natural nails. She was a hand model in her late teens and early 20s. So she took very particular pride in her nails. So I did her nails and then gave her some red lipstick. And so the first day I did this, I didn't think that much of it. I thought, this, my mom, she deserves this. No big deal. And as I'm wheeling her in, I have her in a wheelchair, I'm wheeling her into the kitchen for breakfast, and we have a big round mirror in the dining room. And I parked her in front of that mirror, and I leaned in cheek to cheek and said, "Who is that pretty girl?" And she beamed. And I said, "Oh, my God."
I mean, I'm beaming.
Yeah, the power of that little gesture was amazing.
Yeah.
And then it radiated because anybody who saw her because you're saying, what did she feel pretty? At that point, she did. And I don't know when the last time she did feel pretty or when the last time she even looked in the mirror.
Yeah. I mean, I make it
what she saw.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I make it a practice when I'm in any of my communities. I will wave and say hello to every single person I see, whether I know them or not. And I mean, just a wave, just having a little bit of attention. Like you said, you see these amazing smiles on their face. They just want to remember that they're alive. You know, they want to feel like they have an effect on the world still. And I'm about to cry. I'm going to cry. I'm going to spend the last 10 minutes crying.
Here's one you could definitely relate to. So my brother, I have a chapter in him. I called him my brother Teresa. One Christmas when we were kids, I was probably 10 or 11 at the time, he said, instead of buying gifts, let's go buy 100 oranges and go out to old age homes and give them out to people who don't have family to come in.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was, 11 years old. I wasn't all that excited about this. I want gifts. And we went there. And it was interesting because some of the homes wouldn't let us in.
That's weird.
Other ones let us in. And we said, we would love to give oranges and spend some time with these people who don't have family members.
Yeah.
And the ones that let us in, it was amazing. It was like we were the three kings coming.
Yeah, we have outreach programs with elementary schools and junior high schools. And we come in and we bring them in for grandmother or grandparent for a day. We have these kids come in and just talk to these. And it's amazing, like you'd think the kids would be scared, like you were scared when you first thought, or you just didn't want to do it. After 30 seconds of talking to these seniors, these kids love it. They want to come back. They're coming back on their own because look, the connections that we have between human beings is amazing. And to have somebody, who has the wisdom and experience of years and who really wants to be connected to that child, it makes a difference and they feel it, and they love it. Yeah. So did you ever give yourself a break? Did you ever have a break? It's 24/7 for the entire time that you were there.
Well, that's one of the things the pros say you must take breaks. And me being a guy going, I can handle this. And one of the things I did is I wanted to renovate her home because her house was no longer this loving place. It needed repair. So the first thing I did is I completely redid the basement, and then I made a man cave because I knew I needed exercise and a break and stress relief and stuff. So I made a man cave, but I didn't take really a proper break. And then I had to go through, my mother almost outlived me. I had three emergency surgeries over 8 months.
Oh, wow.
That was, I guess, somewhat stress related. And so I was in the hospital for almost, I think, 2 months total.
Oh, okay.
And the drugs were great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But take breaks.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they say on the airplane when the oxygen masks come down, put yours on first before you take care of your child. Whether you like it or not, it's affecting you.
So how long was it? How long was the total time that you were with your mom?
The book chronicles the 3.5 years.
Wow. And what prompted you or inspired you to write the book when you were done? What was it you were trying to accomplish?
Well, I always liked recording family history. And so I would do greeting cards. I would write poems of certain events. I started this thing called memory books. So when anybody had a monumental birthday, like 30 or 40 or 50, it all started when my dad turned 75. I gave him 75 memories. And he was so moved by this thing that I did another one for my mom. And then I asked everybody else to start chipping in memories. And these things went from a typewritten list to very elaborate design projects that I would do. So
Mark, I want you to be my cousin. I want you to be in my family. I need to.
All right,
it's funny you say that. Like my parents on their 50th wedding anniversary, I created a little video of the 50 biggest moments of their wedding. I mean, doing stuff like that is awesome. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, it's fun. And my dad had heart disease, so that was like a 7-year slow burn for that thing. So that was terrible. But when he turned 80, I was doing an Italian project in LA, and I got into my Italian roots. And so it took about a year and a half to convince him to come to Italy with me. I said, we're going to go to the little village where your dad came from. Awesome. So it had been 100 years since his dad came to America. And there were some rumors about his father, and he was the first to come over. He came a few years earlier. We didn't know exactly when, but we knew he came over and established himself in Brooklyn with his oldest son. And then we found out later, 4 years later, he made enough money to send for the rest of the family. So my grandfather came over in 1895. And we took that trip, and I brought a movie camera with me and shot a documentary.
Amazing.
Because I knew this was going to be a special moment. My father passed 2 years later. It was just an amazing trip, and I wanted other people to discover what we discovered. So I filmed the whole thing. And I have a picture of my dad knocking on his house is still there, knocking on his father's door.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine. The city wasn't Corleone, was it? It wasn't Corleone that you went back to?
No, it wasn't Corleone. But my great-grandfather was the guy. There was some rumor. We heard he was run out of town for committing adultery. He was the mayor at the time.
The coolest guy in the city.
Well, I would think in Italy, really? You got a problem with this? But that was the rumor, and I have no idea how that made it across the Atlantic. But because very few relatives came.
Yeah.
We went over there expecting there was a possibility of being run out of town again.
That's amazing.
And at this point, the village was about 200 people. It was never bigger than 400 people, a little mountaintop village in southern Italy. And as soon as I mentioned our name, the mayor, not the mayor, he was the police chief.
Pulled the gun?
The only police person. The entire police department was Vito. Actually, his last name was Cupola. Okay. So Vito Cupola. He knew the whole family history, and he told us all about my great-grandfather. And it turns out that my great-grandfather was not the villain. He was the hero that ran that mayor out of town.
Oh, wow.
And they've been telling that story at that point over 100 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing for your dad. It must have really been amazing for your dad to learn about all that.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. And so that is the documentary. That's actually that's online now. I have that.
What's the name of the documentary? What's the name of it?
Cowchella. Actually, it's Cowchella Revisited. I re-edited it a year later. My dad came back out to LA for the last time, and I filmed him commenting on the video.
That's awesome.
And so it's pretty cool. You got some of his insight and how he got a big kick out of the whole thing. And so if you go to the website, A Cup of Tea and the Commode, I have a section called Fun Extras. So that's in that. Okay. But it's on YouTube too, if you look at it. And it's not great quality because I had an old camera back then. And but you get a good gist of what we went through. If I could tell you a fun Alzheimer's story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Through this journey, my mom was like med-free still. She was probably on a dozen medications before this all happened. And the only one we put back on was digoxin for her heart because she had a pacemaker. All those other ones she didn't need. Okay. She needed love.
Yeah.
And so we had a doctor that called and wanted to make house calls. I thought, great, because once in a while we did have to go to an important appointment. Sure. And it sometimes caused more problems than, it fixed. So I said, great. So this doctor came and she was lovely. She and my mom got along great. And then after a few months, she said, I think your mother has Alzheimer's. And I said, being the son defending her, no, come on. I mean, she may forget my name. She sees people up on the ceiling and out her bedroom window, but no, that doesn't scream Alzheimer's. I played a doctor on TV. And she said, no, I'd like to do the test. So she ran these cognitive tests. I thought Mom did great. She had a little trouble with the short-term memory, but she had to draw backwards. She had to put the times on the clock and things like that.
Yeah.
And when she was done, the doctor whispers to me, I think I'm right. Your mother has Alzheimer's. And at that point, she was 91 and a half. I So she's 91 and a half. Give me a break. I'd have trouble with those tests.
Yeah.
So I turned to my mother. I said, Mom, you don't have Alzheimer's, do you? And my mother looks at me and said, I don't remember. Perfect.
That's awesome. Give me the big moral of A Cup of Tea on the Commode. What's the big lesson that we can all learn by reading it?
Take care of your loved ones. There's a lot of humor certainly helps through this whole thing because it can be really a drag, I would say. But my mother was funny. She made me laugh a lot. She had some very interesting conversation, a little bit of dementia, but we had a lot of fun, and you got to roll with the punches. So I would say empathy is probably the main thing.
Yeah.
Because they're a person still. They deserve dignity, whether it's your mother, father, or even a stranger. They still are a person, and they want to be respected.
Yeah.
And you have to, like you said, you have to slow up. Yeah, things are a little slower. Their memory may not be good. They may repeat things several times. You got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, over and over.
You're there to, I guess, serve them and make it as pleasant as possible. And there's times you want to kill them, just like being a parent.
Totally. Really are words to live by. Where can people find you? Where can people find the book? Where can people find the audiobook?
They could find me in the south of France, where I'm hiding out.
Yep.
But if they Google A Cup of Tea on the Commode, it's everywhere. It's on Amazon, all free formats. I also have it in large print. So it's
nice.
Regular paperback, large print paperback, audiobook. I have on my YouTube channel about 140 short teasers that most of them are very fun. The reviews and the response from the book. And we just won an award, too, which was nice so far.
What a heartwarming story, Mark. What a really amazing thing you can look back on. And, and honestly, I really connect with your story so much because of my experience with seniors. I know how challenging it is, how difficult it is. And for you to put your life on hold for 2.5 years, take care of your mom, is just a beautiful, beautiful story of the love that we all should have for our parents, regardless of whether they're heroes.
How long did they take care of us?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really glad I had you on. I can't wait to read the book. I'm definitely putting it in my communities. I hope everybody goes out and finds the book as well. Thank you for coming on today. I appreciate your time. I know it's late in the south of France. You're probably raring to get out those bottles of red.
Well, yeah, I have one with me. No, this was lovely, and I thank you because when I get to share my story, I keep Mom here on Earth, which is lovely.
That's awesome. All right, well, Mark, thanks so much. All right, everybody, please like and subscribe us to Middle Age Mess. Please go out and buy A Cup of Tea on the Commode. Like and subscribe to all the different things that Mark Steven Porro is doing, and we will see you next time. Thanks.